There is a crisis you are supposed to solve. There is something you are supposed to make right. And part of God's training is to seclude you from everybody. He's going to make you think differently, see differently, talk differently, act differently, and sometimes be so different that people would think there's something wrong with you. That is a good thing. You are amongst the people, you are one of the tribe, you are one from the nation, because if we think and conform, there will be no transformation. Then you can destroy what the people are afraid of. That is how leaders emerge. They emerge in the theater of crisis. Leaders are movers. They don't just move themselves, but they move people. One thing I can tell you about life, improvement is not normal. And improvement is not natural. So if you leave something in the same place, it will not improve. If I leave this pulpit here, it will never move. I will go next year, I'll come, it is here. Next 5 years, it is here. The only time it will move is if something powerful moves it. Because this doesn't have the power to move itself. In the same way, people don't always have the power as a group to move themselves. It takes somebody to come and move them. And that is why when you study transformational leadership, always, and we'll go into the scripture very soon, and I'm going to give you 2 options and 2 case studies from the Bible. But if you study transformational leadership all over the world, you'll find the people who end up transforming nations always come from outside. If they don't come from outside physically, they come from outside mentally. So that's the challenge of leadership. So if the leader must come from amongst us, how do we then resolve the issue of a good leader who can come and move us? So I'm going to give you 2 propositions. One is what I've said. The leader must come from among the people. 2, the leader must be different from the people. So 1, the leader must come from among the people. 2, the leader must be different from the people. The question is, how do you get somebody from among the people who is different? How is that possible? Because if he's like among the people, he's like them. So I'm going to give you 2 case studies in the Bible of 2 major transformational leaders in the Bible. Both of them were among the people, and they were different from the people. And I'm going to show you why they were different from the people and why they became transformational. And if we're going to really emerge as transformational leaders wherever we are, then these are the 2 models. That is the reason why Pastor Eastwood can stay amongst the people and still be different. And I'm going to show you why pretty soon from the Bible. That's the kind of leader we are working towards. So the first case study is Moses. We all know Moses was a great leader, wasn't he? It's a great leader. Moses is a great leader. Moses comes in the scene at a time when Israel has been in captivity for 400 years. In fact, about 390 or so years. So they've been in captivity for about 350 years. The whole nation. Now, you know, you 350 years is a long time. It's a long time. When Israel went into Egypt, 390 years earlier, there were 70 people. Jacob, his 12 kids, their wives, their children, 70. They went to live in Goshen. And over the years, they were a very blessed people. And they were burning like nothing. They were having children and children and children and children and children. At a point, they gave birth to so many children that they were more than the Egyptians. So the Egyptians said, these are foreigners. They are no more than us. And if we leave them, one day, they're going to join an enemy, take over our nation, and we're in trouble. So now let us deal harshly with them. So they start dealing harshly with them, probably about 100 years after they had lived in Goshen. So they enslaved them. So by the time Moses is born, Israel has been a nation of slaves for about 290 years. That's a long time. Because 290 years, can you imagine the number of generations? The first generation of slaves have died. A second generation of slaves have come, they've died. A third generation of slaves have come, they've died. So now we are living with people in a new generation who have no memory of freedom. They have no memory of freedom. They have a certain concept that they came from somewhere, that there was a guy called Abraham, there was a guy called Isaac and Jacob, and they came and all of that. But this is a very, very distant memory. They are totally slaves, and not just general slaves. They are slaves under bondage. So one thing about slavery is that it's first a mentality before it becomes physical. Nobody can enslave your body without enslaving your mind. By the time your mind accepts you are a slave, you have also accepted another human being as a master. And this has gone on for so many years. No Jew can even think to be free. They can't. So everybody who is born is a slave. He may say, we no go sit down, make them cheat with, but he's still a slave. He tries a little, it doesn't work, he gives up. Other people say, listen, just let's do our work. After all, we are alive. We have to thank God we are alive. After all, we have food to eat, and they are not killing us. Even they kill, they leave some of us alive. You know, people always rationalize their situation. So if a leader is going to come from among the Jews, it's almost impossible, because the leader must emerge from them. But all of them have slave mentality. So how are we going to get a leader who can bring liberty? So a couple give birth to a child, and they looked at that boy. He's supposed to be surrendered to be killed. They look at the guy and they say, this one is a proper child. We must make an effort to save him. They are not even thinking of freedom. They're just thinking, let's make an effort to save him. They put him in a basket, put him on a Nile. He's discovered by Pharaoh's daughter. So, although he is a Jew, he's now going to be outside of the Jews. He's going to be raised differently. So he is raised not by a slave, but by a king, a princess. So he grows up thinking, I'm a prince, I'm royalty, I'm somebody, I can do things, I can shake things. So the first thing you notice about Moses as a leader is that God solves a problem. He's one of them, but he's different from them. And the way he does it is he removes one of them from the same situation to another place, feed them with a new food, teach them a new thing so that he can come back to the same place. He qualifies as a leader amongst the people, but he's different from the people. Are you following me? So Moses goes and he spends 40 years. One thing Moses has, which no Jew has, is he doesn't fear Egyptians. He doesn't fear Egyptians. Why? He's one of them. Every Jew will see an Egyptian and give way. If a Jew is being beaten by an Egyptian, they will bear their punishment nicely. Because this is what we've been doing for 290 years. But Moses doesn't have the fear. You know, when you find one person who doesn't fear what you fear, you'll be amazed at what that person does. If you've been raised in an environment of poverty and you meet somebody who was raised in a world without poverty, the things they think about, it will scare you. You are traveling, your mind is trotro. He doesn't think trotro because that is not his world. He actually can go straight to the person who sells cars. He has no money and he can convince the person to give him his car for a test ride, go and ride the car, go through town, come and park it and not buy it. You will never imagine it if you are poor, because you think if you try that, you are in trouble. He can go to a restaurant, sit down, behave like he is rich, order water and drink the water and walk out. You would not. Have you noticed there are some people, they may be walking in front of a wonderful hotel, and when they want, excuse me to say, to urinate, they'll urinate outside. It never occurs to them that there is a washroom in the hotel and I can go boldly and enter the toilet, do my business there and come out. Because where he has been raised and the mind he's working with, you don't go to such places. But somebody else who has been raised differently can walk straight to that place. Are you getting me? So God is raising a leader called Moses, and he says he's not going to think like a Jew. He has to think like an Egyptian. So somehow he smuggles him to Egypt. He thinks like an Egyptian. So the first thing, he has no fear of an Egyptian. If you check the history of Ghana, our colonial fight, all the people who were fighting for Ghana's freedom, they didn't fear the white man, because they had sat in classroom with them and beat them at class. When they came back, they could easily demand freedom. But the people who are here, they say, oh, the white man is good, oh, he's the best thing. Because somehow their mind has been so colonized, they can't even imagine freedom. But for those who have no fear, although they are one of us, they are still outside of us. Are you following me? So, what is the first thing that Moses does? I would not recommend it for anybody, but he kills an Egyptian. He kills an Egyptian. He has no fear of them. He sees an Egyptian molesting a Jew, and he just, I don't know what it is, slaps him around, whatever, boots him. He kills him. The resistance didn't come from the Egyptians. It came from the Jews. Hey, Moses, this man, you've killed an Egyptian. They started reporting him. Because to the Jewish mind, it's like a god. You can't kill an Egyptian. The first time Moses acts like a leader, he acts because he has no fear of the things the people are afraid of. And he kills an Egyptian. And he runs away. And later when you check Moses' life, he feared the Jews more than the Egyptians. Because he didn't live amongst them. He was afraid of the Jews, the Hebrews. In fact, all the signs he asked from God to give him, it was to convince the Jews that he is the one to deliver them. He didn't have fear of the Egyptians. Why? Because he was raised in the best of their world. He went to the best of their schools, understand their philosophy. He doesn't fear. Leaders emerge and become transformational when they conquer the things that trouble and worry their people, the fears of their people, the inferiority of their people, the ideas of their people that hold them back. And they only do that if they have another form of education that does not come from the same place that their people are. Second thing Moses had to deal with. He doesn't fear the Egyptians, but he fears the Egyptian gods. That's why he had to go to Jethro. So 40 years of his life, he learns not to fear an Egyptian. The next 40 years, he learns not to fear the Egyptian gods. Because he meets the priest of Midian, who teaches him about the God of Abraham. Eventually, he meets the God of Abraham in a burning bush, in the most supernatural and spectacular way, more than anything he has seen in Egypt. And so he can now conquer the two things that his people are afraid of: the Egyptian and the gods of the Egyptians. And out of that, Moses steps out and he goes straight to the front, to the palace of Pharaoh, and said, "Let my people go." So somebody is going to say, "But how am I going to be different? I don't have the money. I can't travel. I can't do all the things." There is something called book. Have you heard of book? A book is one way, or reading is one way to travel from where you are into another world. So you can live in 2025 and travel back to 1500. You can travel back to the Roman Empire. You can travel to Russia. You can travel to France. You can travel to you can travel and meet Aristotle. You can meet Plato. You can meet Socrates. You can meet Pythagoras. You can meet all these people. How do you meet them? In your mind, by reading. Somebody once said, the safest way to keep anything from an African, it's a very insulting statement. I don't like to repeat it, but I have to say it just to illustrate a point. I hate the statement, but it says the safest place to hide something from an African is in a book. Because you will never open it. And if I ask how many of you have read any serious book in the last 5 years? Of course you read newspaper, but the newspaper is circulating Ghana news. You listen to radio in Ghana, it's circulating Ghana news. So as you listen, you are becoming more and more like the pathology. The sickness is infecting, it's reinfection. So you're listening, your conversations. So a time is going to come, you realize that everything you know in your life is only based on what every Ghanaian knows. And if everything you know is based on what every Ghanaian knows, then how are you going to break and transform Ghana? You can't. Transformation starts with mental transformation. And the only way to get that is to get information that is not immediately available in your culture. Moses had to get it in Pharaoh's house, but you can get it by reading, by listening, by training your mind, by exposing your mind. Not only, in Ghana we do well with reading, but we only read things that will help us pass an exam to get a certificate we can put on a wall. This is the most certificated nation you can find anywhere in the world without productivity. Everybody has an MBA. You know, in other places, when people have an MBA, they are really good. Here, we have the MBA and we can't solve any problem. Everybody is studying law. God bless you. But the point I'm making is we learn things not for transformation but for conformation. We learn to conform. Everybody is a lawyer, I will learn law. Everybody is studying MBA, I will learn MBA. Everybody is doing this, I will do that. Every study we do does not have transformation at the heart of it. It only has conformation. Do you know the kind of reading that brings about transformation? The reading that does not give you a certificate. You don't need it to learn, to get promotion. You don't need it to add to your name, Mensa OTABIL, MBA, PhD. You don't need it. You don't need to decorate your name. You only need it because you want to understand something better and learn how to do it. That is the knowledge that transforms. Moses amongst the people, but different from the people. Listen to me. The problems we are dealing with as Africans, they were here before our fathers came. They were here before our grandfather. They were here before our great-grandfather. We have been underdeveloped for a very long time. If you go back 1,000 years in our history, you will not find any structured development. You'll find survival and existence, but no structured development. If you go back, you have to go back probably about 3,000 years or 2,500 years to find any measurable development in Africa, and that is in Northern Africa. But here, south of the Sahara, in the equatorial jungle, those of us here, we don't have a history of development. You know what that means? Moses is fighting 250 years or so of slavery. We are fighting 2,500 years of a system that keeps being passed on to us every day. It is so normal to us. It is normal. We don't even see anything wrong with it. And so we repeat the situation one after the other. I pray that God will raise Moses, a leader from amongst the people, but different from the people, who emerges and is not afraid of what the people are afraid of, and is not afraid of the gods that the people are afraid of. May the Lord make you that Moses. Real transformation is not exciting. Real transformation is not about dancing and being happy. Real transformation comes from, it's a brain work. Brain work. You will crack your brain till your brain is cracked. You will ask questions and answer the questions. You will try to figure out, why are we here? The question that Gideon was asking, if God is for us, why are we like this? If we pray and pray and pray and pray, and collectively we are not seeing the transformation, we should pause and ask ourselves, what are we not doing? Not that the prayer is wrong, but what else are we not doing? Pray, but think. And in my life, Pastor Yusud, of all that I've studied, and I'm not the best in the world, but everything I've studied, and I've studied a lot, believe you me, If I show you the kinds of things I read every day, you say, why are you reading this? I need to understand. I need to understand the empires of the world. Why did they become great? How did the Persians become great? How did the Phoenicians make it? How did the Aztecs make it? What do we need to do? And there is one thing I can say conclusively. Every society that has been transformed, it has come from a leader who is one of them, but is an outsider. I've never seen a conforming leader bring about any change. He's one of them, but he's an outsider. He thinks different. And sometimes he thinks different so much so that people think there is something wrong with him. He thinks different. So, how do leaders emerge? They emerge from an outside place. They don't emerge from where the majority of the people are. If you want to be in the majority, you can't be a transformational leader. Because transformational leaders are essentially minorities, and their thinking doesn't conform to everybody's thinking. That's why I believe that if you allow the majority of the people to always choose what they want, they will always make a mistake. They will always make a mistake because they will conform instead of transform. Second case study, David. He's a Jew. He's not afraid of what the Jews are afraid of. He's like Moses. David goes to the battlefield and everybody's afraid. When your king is afraid, the whole nation is afraid. King Saul is afraid. Prince Jonathan is afraid. Army generals are afraid because there's one guy there called Goliath, and every Jew is afraid of him except this one boy. He's not afraid of what the nation is afraid of. So something has happened to him. Something has intervened between David and Israel, so that David can be in Israel but not think like the average Israelite. And it came through rejection. David puts it in the psalm. He says, when my father and mother forsake me, then you will take me. His father and mother forsook him. The last born. Everybody is in town. He is in the jungle. He's in the wilderness. Abandoned. To the extent that when Samuel comes and is looking for all the sons of Jesse, nobody considers that David is a candidate. But in that outsider position, he develops an outsider's mindset. Because the insider mindset is not going to cut it. So he has an outsider's mindset. What is the outsider's mindset? For some reason, whilst he's out there, of course we know he's a worshiper, but he develops this ability to throw stones. You will learn how to do things when you are in the wilderness. So he learns how to throw stones. So he's killing lions and bears with a stone. I mean, he's a fisherman. And the lion is running and he can hit a moving target. He's using them for target practice. So David has developed this idea where if you read the history of the Jews, the two things they fear, lion and bear. They fear. And actually most cultures, we fear a lion and a bear. You don't mess with them. David is messing with lions and bears. His brother is conforming in the military. They don't teach them how to kill bears in the military of Israel. So he knows how to do salutes and mark time and attention and all of that. He has all of that. He has his medals, but he doesn't know how to confront unorthodox problems. non-conforming giants. So David is an outsider. The whole nation, he's the only one who thinks differently. So he's sent to the battlefield, and he sees this big guy there, and he doesn't blink. Now, I mean, when you read the story of David, sometimes I pause and say, he doesn't even say, let me go and think about it. He doesn't blink. He doesn't analyze. It's instinctive. Why? Because he has an outsider's mentality. He has been trained differently. He thinks differently. First, he has been trained to depend on God all by himself. So he knows God is with him. Secondly, he has been trained to fight and to win against unorthodox enemies. So he goes to the battlefield, and this guy is standing there. And he goes to tell the king, I can solve the national crisis. It's like somebody moved from this church and goes to the president and say, I can solve Galamsey by next week. And people say, even the soldiers can't do it. Nobody can do it. Say, I can solve it. Because I was banned to go and live by myself. And when I went to this place, this is how I solved the problem. The same way I solved that problem, I can use to solve this problem. Nobody has thought of the David paradigm and the David solution. But leaders emerge in moments of crisis. Leaders emerge in moments of crisis. But it is a crisis that is tailor-made for them, because their non-conformist mindset can think about solutions that the rest of the people can't think of. Moses can kill an Egyptian. David can kill a giant. Two things his people can't imagine is possible. And so David says to the king, Mr. King, I can do it. Can you imagine? The king is so inspired by the bravery of this young man. He says to him, go. I put the destiny of the nation into your hand. Go and take down this guy. And what does he do? We know the story. He goes, pa, 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 boom. At this point, David is not a leader. But I want you to watch how the Bible reports what happens. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 51, 52. Therefore David ran and stood over the Philistine, took his sword and drew it out of its sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. Now note verse 52. Now the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and to the gates of Ekron. What has happened? A people who are sitting, shaking, they can't move, all of a sudden are moving. Everybody is moving. They shout and they move. And why are they moving? Because of David. David is the one moving them. And in my estimation, that is the moment David became the leader of Israel. At that moment, without a position, without a title, without official statement, without anybody even announcing him, the people instinctively knew who the leader of the nation was. He is that young boy holding the head of Goliath with a sword in his hand. And because of that image, it moves the whole nation from a time of defeat to a time of victory. Leaders are movers. They are movers. They don't just move themselves, but they move people. There is a crisis you are supposed to solve. There is something you are supposed to make right. And part of God's training is to seclude you from everybody. He's going to make you think differently, see differently. You are amongst the people, you are one of the tribe, you are one from the nation, you call yourself a Ghanaian, but you don't think like a Ghanaian. There has come a time when we should have Fantis who don't think like Fantis, Ashantis who don't think like Ashantis, Ghans who don't think like Ghans, Frafras who don't think like Frafras, Ghanaians who don't think like Ghanaians. Because if we think and conform, there will be no transformation. But if you can think differently, see the problem differently, have a different mindset, then you can destroy what the people are afraid of. Somebody say, I'm different. Say, I'm different. Say, I'm Moses, I'm David. I am Moses, I am David. I think differently. I am trained differently. I see the problem differently. And I will solve it. That is how leaders emerge. They emerge in the theater of crisis. During the Second World War, and if you know about the Second World War primarily was fought on two main corridors: the European corridor, the Eastern Asian corridor. In Europe, the main threat was Germany. In Asia, the main threat was Japan. Japan is colonizing, trying to take over other nations in Asia, and the Germans are trying to take over the nations in Europe. So Germany just went through Poland, and within 48 hours, Poland is conquered. Czechoslovakia, I mean, they're just running through all the European countries, ransacked France. They are just about to take over Britain. They're bombing Britain like crazy. The Americans joined the war. And the Americans sent troops through France, and eventually, gradually, Hitler and the Germans are conquered. And the Japanese are bombed. It's not a good thing, but that's what happened. Bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they surrender. That's the end of Second World War. After Second World War, all the nations of the world, not the world, but the European nations whose land Germany took and who were colonized by Germany, signed a treaty. It's called the North Atlantic Treaty. And the North Atlantic Treaty was written for Europe by Europeans to say that from now on, after the Second World War, this is 1947. Second World War ends in 1945. 1947, they say from now on, no nation has the power to dominate another nation, because that's what Germany was trying to do. That's what Japan is trying to do. So they made a law, the League of Nations. No nation can do that. And they wrote this long charter about how you can conquer a land and take it, and how you can go to somebody's land and take it. And when they were writing it, they were not thinking of Africa. They forgot that they have colonized us. You get it? They forgot. So they made their charter. But there was one little guy, an Indian, a lawyer. He used to be in South Africa, practiced law in South Africa, moved back to his native India. He's called Mahatma Gandhi. And as a lawyer, he read the North Atlantic Treaty and said, whoa, wait a minute. They don't want to be colonized, and they have protected themselves. So he took the same treaty that is not designed for him, and he started fighting for independence. And on the basis of his pleadings, India became independent because of North Atlantic Treaty. At the same time, a young Ghanaian called Kwame Nkrumah, heard about what Gandhi has said, inspired by the writings of Gandhi, inspired by the spirit of Gandhi, starts fighting for the independence of his people. What am I saying? Gandhi's mind was not the typical Indian mind. So the average person will read the same document and say, well, it doesn't concern us, it's the Egyptians. But if you have been an outsider and you come in, you have a way of seeing things differently. Kwame Nkrumah, I can guarantee you, if he had been here, could not have done what he did. He went to Europe, went to America, came with a totally different can-do mindset. What we were afraid of, he wasn't afraid of. Led the struggle with other people, and eventually we became independent. The point I'm making is, a leader's mind must not conform to the predominant mind of his environment. He has to be different. He has to dress differently, think differently, talk differently, act differently, and sometimes be so different that people will think there's something wrong with you. That is a good thing, when people think there is something wrong with you. And in that mind, leaders are born. You may not be able to travel. You may not be able to go somewhere else. But be a student of history if you are serious. Read. Think. Don't. If you can listen to a speech and can formulate your own understanding, you are making movement. If you listen to something, or you say, yeah, he says it, so it is so, you can't go and reference. For example, I talk about North Atlantic Treaty. You should go and research whether I'm lying or what I'm saying is true and try to find out. But otherwise, you just be there, you be a yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Predominant mind. Everything people say, you are yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Oh, I believe it. Oh, it's true. Hey, I'm telling you it's true. Have you researched it? Have you? That's why we listen to radio with no analysis. People say things without any proof. They just say whatever they want to say because they know you. They know you. They are feeding you what they know you to be. If the people know that you are analytical, they will start thinking differently. But they come from us and they only conform to who we are. But true leaders don't conform. They stick out differently. They stand out differently. And they are not afraid to go against popular opinion. They are not afraid. Everybody is going left, right, going this way, and then they are going the other way. Because in Ghana, we like conformity. We like uniform more than anything. We're a country of uniform. Even when we grow up, we are wearing uniform. Every time we are wearing uniform. We wear uniform to go to work. We wear uniform at funerals. We wear uniform when children are born. I mean, you go to a funeral, everybody is uniform. Child naming, everybody is uniform. Can you imagine you go to a child naming ceremony, everybody is wearing white, somebody is wearing red. People say, what is this? Because we live in a society where doing what everybody does is what gives us identity. But I am proposing that doing what everybody does will keep you where everybody is. And if you're going to emerge as a leader, you have to learn sometimes to say, I will be different. I will be different. I will be different. You know, there is a big debate going on now about mother tongue and all of that. One of the things, you see, we don't read history. Do you know the biggest language, the most prominent language in the world 2,000 years ago? Do you know the lingua franca? Latin. That was the language of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire ruled everywhere. Everybody spoke Latin. Everybody. If it was your mother tongue, you'll be happy. Latin is dead. Because the natural cause of human history is languages die. They die because there are not enough people to speak them, and they will die because they don't have commercial power. We have to face it. Some Ghanaian languages will die because they are not viable. Now people say, but that's our language. Do you know the language your ancestors spoke 1,000 years ago? Do you think you know what your ancestors? Do you think if even you think they were speaking do you think they're speaking what you are speaking now? Go 1,000 years back and ask the people there, what Frafra are they speaking? When they say one word, you won't understand. Languages are very dynamic. We end up speaking all kinds of things. The important thing is that you find a language that helps you to think clearly and exposes you to resources that will expand your knowledge. You know, when we Ghanaians say English is a foreign language, it's one of those things I struggle with. But it's our official language. So it's inconsistent. How can a foreign language be your official language? So it means you are officially foreign. So we are all foreigners. We go to parliament and we are foreigners. I mean, how can you talk about a language you have spoken for over 100 years, where almost all your textbooks are written in, all your important legislation is written in, all your laws are written in, everything, all your newspapers are written in it, and still you call it foreign? When will it become native? When? Because the English people in Britain, the English they are speaking now is not their language. It's a Germanic language. They had their own Anglo language, which is only a few words are left. The rest is Norman French, Saxon, and Germanic. And they have mixed it into what they are speaking. If you go 1,000 years or 1,500 years now, the people in England, if they speak English, you won't understand. That's the nature of language. You see, we make all kinds of arguments here, and sometimes I wonder, it's the conformity. And everybody say, yeah, it's a foreign language. Am I a foreigner? I'm speaking English. And get it right. In about the next 50 years, the majority of Ghanaians, English will be their first language. It will be their mother tongue. Why? Because that's what their mother taught them. Listen, you just have to study history of the world, and you realize, because in history you can see 1,000 years in a short time. You can see 1,500 years just in a short time, because it compresses everything. Then you look at it and say, so what are we fighting for? So you decide, I will preach in Frafra. I will write in it. God bless you. God bless you. And let's see who will read your book. just, if we are blessed, can you imagine if Portugal had colonized Ghana? If Portugal had colonized Ghana, do you know what we'll be speaking? Portuguese. Portuguese. You know the African countries that speak Portuguese? Mozambique, Angola, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau. Have you heard of them? Do you read news from them? Woe on you if the Portuguese colonize you. They imprison you. But we inherited a global language that enables us to have access to a rich resource of information in the world, and we can think big ideas and talk big talk because of that. That is what enabled Kwame Nkrumah and Dankwa and all of those people to fight and debate for our freedom. Because our independence was not won with war and gun, it was won with logic. And it took. Jacob Wilson Say, who was considered the first millionaire in Ghana, hired lawyers from Ghana and hired lawyers in England to go and fight in the English courts so that the King of England will not take the land of Ghana. That is why Ghana is one of the few countries where the state didn't colonize our land. You go to most African countries, their lands were taken. That's the problem of apartheid. That's what happened in South Africa. That's what happened in Zimbabwe. But it was because we had people who could debate. What if all they could say is Fanti? And they go, Mr. O, Abrofwe, yes, Rawan. I mean, I'm not making fun, but listen. You have to learn to think differently. If you're going to be a leader, many times you're going to be the only one who thinks the way you think. And just because people criticize you or against you doesn't mean you are wrong. Don't think the majority are always right. Because if there's anything you find in the Bible, the majority are mostly wrong. God will call a prophet and say, go and prophesy against the whole house of Israel. The transformers are not the majority. They are not the conformist. They are not the traditionalist. They are not the ones who are so bent on keeping the past. You know, many times I listen to people, we have to keep our past, we have to keep the past. Most countries that are doing well, you don't hear that language. They're thinking of the future. We are thinking about preserving the past. There is a point in history, there is a way in which we preserve history and the knowledge of the past. But let us not be so obsessed with the status quo that we can't change anything. And if there is anything I feel is at the heart of African underdevelopment, it is what I call cultural inertia. The culture is stuck. And the people are stuck. And they are stuck in the life of their ancestors. They are not able to move forward because they are conformists. But we need a Moses who, after 250 years of slavery, says, I don't fear Egyptians and I don't fear the Egyptian gods. We need a David who, when everybody is silenced, the king is conformed, says, I can solve this problem because I have a different technology, I have a different outlook, and I can deal with this problem.